Let me read to you a passage from the 12th chapter of St. Mark's Gospel, verses 13 to 17. It's the Gospel for Tuesday of the 9th week of Ordinary Time. St. Mark writes, Some Pharisees and Herodians were sent to Jesus to ensnare him in his speech. They came and said to him, Teacher, we know that you are a truthful man, and that you are not concerned with anyone's opinion. You do not regard a person's status, but teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. Is it lawful to pay the census tax to Caesar or not? Should we pay or should we not pay? Knowing their hypocrisy, he said to them, Why are you testing me? Bring me a denarius to look at. They brought one to him, and he said to them, Whose image and inscription is this? They replied to him, Caesar's. So Jesus said to them, Repay to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God. They were utterly amazed at him. That's from Mark chapter 12, verse 13 to 17. We are led to think of God and Caesar. What do I mean? Well, Christ is and was the master teacher in all that pertains to God and to our service of him. He was never caught out, despite the constant attempts of his enemies to ensnare him. The gospel scene I've just read illustrates the point. Some Herodians and Pharisees, the two parties see him as their joint enemy, were sent to ensnare Jesus. Their intervention was part of a plan involving many others, and this time their question had political implications, which would enable them to place Christ in the hands of the Roman law. They begin by endeavoring to flatter Jesus as one concerned only for the truth and as one who never carried favor. This approach, they hope, will encourage him to disregard Roman civil authority, and by his teaching to prompt citizens to defy it. Christ, whom St. John tells us in his Gospel, could easily read the hearts of men, knew their hypocrisy, and effortlessly answered them with a teaching which not only amazed them, but provides us with important light on the living of the Christian life in the midst of the world. We are to render to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and at the same time, we are to render to God what belongs to God. We are to live in God and in Christ, but at the same time we do this in the world. And if this is to happen, the world's temporal authorities must be respected. As we survey in our minds the flow of human history, we can easily see how the things pertaining to God and those pertaining to Caesar have time and again been in tension and confused. Nevertheless, it is clear from Christ's teaching that a properly understood observance of God's commands will involve good citizenship. The Christian does not disregard society and civil authority, but serves God by building it up. We are called to be good citizens. Christ doubtlessly paid his taxes. For example, we read in the Gospels that Simon Peter was once asked by an official if Jesus paid the temple tax, and Simon said he did indeed. There is no record of Jesus being anything but respectful to due civil authority. He spoke respectfully, but without the slightest fawning, to Pontius Pilate during his passion. He would have nothing to do with anything revolutionary, and promptly withdrew from the clamor to make him king. That is not to say that he would not condemn immorality and injustice perpetrated by civil authorities, for they too were under the dominion of God and would be judged. He would have fully supported John the Baptist's condemnation of King Herod's marital situation. He himself called Herod that fox when told that Herod was after him. Indeed, he would not speak to him when he was sent to him by Pilate. The point to be taken, though, from our gospel text I read, is that Christ teaches us to be good citizens, and provided the laws of the land do not contravene God's law, to obey them. We can take the point further and say that Christ wishes his disciples to do all they can to ensure that Caesar himself renders to God the things that are God's, and to remember constantly that he, Caesar, is not God. That is to say, we are called to involve ourselves in civil society and conduct our involvement according to the light and teaching of Christ. For this reason, the Church has a large body of modern social teaching. It stems mainly from the great social encyclical Rerum Novarum of Pope Leo XIII at the end of the 19th century. But all too often, this corpus of social doctrine applying to the teaching of Christ, applying the teaching of Christ to the earthly city, is ignored by both citizens and those who formulate the laws of the earthly city. There are many Catholics and Christians who are in political life and who make their decisions without reference to Christ. Let us take to heart the fundamental principle offered to us by the Lord in our text today. We belong to Christ, and as persons who are in union with him by faith and baptism, we live our lives as members of society and the world. We have a responsibility to the world, and this responsibility is to be lived out according to a due respect for its laws and institutions. We must render to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, while at the same time reminding Caesar that he is not God, which, as history has shown, he is very prone to think.